Well, universe, look at that. I'm right on time. 9 p.m. here on the 10th of March. Saturday night at 9 p.m. The 10th of March. I guess I'm 7 years late to our date? 7 years almost to the minute. 7 years ago on this date, which was a Friday night in 2017, Lily Mae Eaton walked on into my back door. Walked into it? No, she walked through my wide open back door. Why was my back door wide open on March 10th? I left my back door open a lot because of my dogs. I just let them run in and out. And frankly, when I say the back door was open, the door that was open was the door that was to the mudroom, which then also had access outside, but it's like a sheltered area. So it was open all the time, basically. But walking my back door, she did. My dogs didn't even react till she got all the way to the kitchen, which is odd, especially Millhouse. But Millhouse fired off first and started barking like aggressively toward the kitchen opening, which had me spooked big time because I'd never seen this before. And that's when Phoebe's attention was clearly driven. She started lunging toward the kitchen. And as I grabbed her, I heard Lily in the kitchen say, "Hello? Hello?" And I thought, what the fuck? And I go, like, in a panic of, there's a motherfucker, somebody's in my fucking house. Somebody's in my fucking house. I'm at least somewhat relieved to hear a female voice, but I don't know what I'm about to run into in the kitchen. Thank God I've got both my dogs and they're ready to go. So I've got them both by the collar. I go into the kitchen and it's this waifish 5'2", 5'3". I think she's actually 5'4". Actually, I have a picture of her license somewhere. I'll get her height. She's and all of 110, 20 pounds. She's not 120 at this point. She has been homeless for 4 months, 3 months, something like that. So she's probably 115. And I'm like, what are you doing here? Who? And she starts explaining that she's trying to get back to the party she just walked out of. And where's Haley? Or it wasn't Haley, but it was something like Hunter. Or, it was just a name that was like, who are you asking about? I don't even know. Why would you think there's a party at this location? What makes this look like a party? Like, and then she's so bizarre. She's talking about some neighborhood relative and a location that she says has fencing, but it's the kind of, and she's going through all these murky details. And then I start thinking, wait, who the fuck are you? What are you, and then it turns into this game of what has just walked in my back door? Because there are three thoughts are running through my head as it's happening. One, this is a prank. That is my very first thought, and unfortunately my dominant thought. Two, it's not a prank, and this is a motherfucking crazy motherfucker. Walked out of the mental institution. But at this point, I feel like it's an act. I keep catching her having like moments of, I don't know, what I consider break, but it's her nervous, like, laugh expulsions when she's in full mania, as I come to learn over the course of the next 3 days to 3 years. And so the third option is that she's setting me up for some 3 fucking huge dudes who are about to rush my front door or whatever, right? I'm thinking because of the 2 dogs, I'm a poor target for a plan like that, especially with her in the house, where I can just turn Millhouse loose on her. Millhouse would have fucking bitten the shit out of her. And Phoebe would have followed right behind. So, none of it makes sense. Which is why the prank theory wins. Well, wins. It becomes viable enough that I start to break down the prank. I start to figure out, who set her up to do this to me? Because I think it's my friend, I don't want to say her name. It starts with an E, and it is a boy's name with an A at the end of it. So figure it out, because if your name were Rick, you'd have, well, everything else you'd need. So in her last encounter with me, we were planning something for her March 29th birthday, which is coming up, obviously, at this point in time, in about 3 weeks. So when I ask this lunatic, who now is in my living room sitting down with, and my dogs are very okay with her, which is, she doesn't, it's bizarre how many signals are sending me that she's not a threat. But mostly, I trust my dog's reaction to her. And Millhouse is very standoffish with anybody that rubs him the wrong way. And he's totally sitting next to her. She's petting him. So I'm thinking, okay, have you been to my fucking house? Like, I'm running through my head trying to think, is she some woman that's been to a party here? Like, I'm literally, I'm thinking, what? And all the time, her answers are so chaotically uninterpretable until she says something lucid about, say, having to go deal with watering all those palms down by the hotels over at the river. And you're like, what are you talking about? Which hotel? What river? You know, the river, the one that's in Gavin County over in Texas. Gavin County in Texas? Okay. And when were you last in Texas? I just came from Texas. You just told me you were camping in South Dakota last night. Well, yeah, but that's when I drove to Texas so I could come back to Colorado so that I could be here to talk to my aunt. And I'm like, the circuitous fucking goofiness of this is just enough what I would think someone acting like a schizophrenic could look like. But after 20 or 25 minutes, I'm like, this is too persistent. Nobody's in character this well for this long without breaking, especially with as confrontational as I've been. So I start to think, well, motherfucker, this is a crazy girl that just walked in my fucking house. Like, she does, and so then I start thinking, is she a threat, right? Like, is her, she's clearly delusional. I don't know that she's even given me her real name. She's given me 3 or 4 names. Rose was one of them, I remember. But I'm waiting for my friend that has Rick's middle name. She's going to show up this evening with a friend of hers who I'd met like 2 weeks before this. I don't know, 3 weeks before this, just for a couple hours. And we had a really good conversation. We were going to go out on Friday night together, the 3 of us. And of course, they were down in Castle Rock or somewhere getting ready. And it's 11, 12 before they finally start responding to my texts. And they're headed up to downtown at that point. I explained what's going the fuck on, thinking, I thought they had probably, I honestly thought this might be her friend at the first. And after seeing how filthy she was, I was like, nah, there's no way. But the point is, all of this is happening so coincidentally that I think, well, it could have all just been them playing a joke. I mean, there's all kinds of ways I could try to explain what's happening other than a fucking crazy woman walked in the back door of my house. And here's the other thing. She's young. How old was Lily in 2017? She would have been 27, I think, or 28, 27, 6 or 8. One of those 3. I'd have to figure it out. But so she's young and and wayfish. Like, if she were to, she'd have to have a gun to be a threat. She wouldn't even be a threat with a fucking, a sword or a switchblade or anything in between. I mean, hell, Phoebe could overpower her. And Phoebe's just going to flop on her. So, the reason this starts to be concerning is now I understand that I have a real situation of somebody in need, and I'm not going to call the police unless she were to do something that would justify it. But it doesn't seem like anything here is anything other than a really sad situation that this homeless schizophrenic walked in my back door. Whether she thought she was walking into her aunt's house or was just trying to game me to get some fucking food. At this point, I give her some soup. You know, I'm like, you look like you need some food. You want to eat? And I'm trying to get anything out of her that I think I can trust. Anything identification-wise. She does not have ID on her, but she says she left her bag nearby and she should just go get her bag. And I keep telling her, go get your fucking bag. Go get your fucking bag. You can come back to my house. We will continue this conversation. I won't lock my doors and call the police. But you should go get your bag right now. And eventually, she does this. I don't know, 4 or 5 hours later, though. And she does this at a point where I've given up that this is even possible. I'm just thinking it's a bullshit thing that she's saying. And she comes back with something, and it's got ID. It's got an ID from when she was 18, because she's facing the wrong direction. And yet, it's her for sure. Like, there's no question, this is her. And she lives somewhere down on, like, Deer Creek Lane or something. Like, she lives way south and west. So, or this is the address that's on the ID, which turns out to actually be her address. And I'm not in, well, Lily's passed on. So, this is the first real piece of information I have after essentially deciding I was going to have to try to find someone from her family, if at all possible, to get a hold of. I can't think of anything else that's humane and correct to deal with the situation. And if I can't do that, I'm going to have to call some level of psychotic authority, which has me in no way, shape, or form feeling good. And I don't know who else I could get in touch with. I'm like running through my head of people I know that might be able to help me find a resource outside of, you know, just the direct calls into the system. And nothing's coming to mind. And plus, I mean, by the time she's gone to get her bag, she'd had soup, and I think I gave her like cookies or something that were in the house. Maybe Girl Scout cookies were in the house, I think, if I remember right. But whatever she's devouring, when she leaves to go get her bag, I'm like, I'm going to make myself breakfast. So it's 4:35 in the morning, maybe even later, 5:30. But, and I'm 99% hoping I'd never see her again. But I'm also a little intrigued by the last 5 hours of my life. I've never met a delusional schizophrenic. And I'm now convinced I'm in contact with one. So that was the kind of incident that I never could have ever seen coming. Someone walks in your back door, literally, while you're in your living room. And then you have a friendship for, well, you have what would be considered a friendship in the most twisted sense of friends. Well, no, we were even roommates. I let Lily live here because she was homeless. And it was, of course, a terrible decision, but a decision I couldn't not make. I was not going to let her sleep on the streets. And Lily had a hard life. And it had every ounce of anger that comes with it. So the only reason that I ever had to remove myself from her was how violent she would get, and toward herself as much as toward me. But she would rage toward me. But it was never anything that was threatening because it was Lily. And, you know, there are plenty of times when she was slugging at me and I could just put my arms up and let her hit me as hard as she wanted to. But she would do that to herself too. She would that I was not capable of giving Lily anywhere near the life care that someone needed to give her enough structure to find something that could be justifiably called a progressive life for herself. I did the whole, well, I will never doubt you or call you the problem. I will always believe that you have every skill necessary to get yourself in this universe coordinated and on track. But just being there and supporting her and giving her enough encouragement to find something purposeful was not enough at all. And the whole time, of course, I was fortunate to be in touch with her grandmother, who lived close enough that I could walk to her place. So there was enough here as it evolved into a really, I don't want to call it pity situation, but I've never had such a wounded goddamn bird flop into my yard. And I was changed forever for the better for it. And she did kill my dog. She killed Milhouse. She gave him rat poison, mouse poison. But all these things, well, they taught me what it meant to be completely removed from the situations that are otherwise leaving stains of potential across your lifetimes. Lily threatened me. Lily was a threat to my soul's most forgiving center. She made me go to the most horrible place to forgive her. And yet by doing that, she brought a peace to my life, a tranquility to my life, a balance to my life that I mean, it was as if I needed to know I could do that to finally realize that I did have the power of completely taking myself out of the situation. I don't know. I cannot. I've tried to write out that night with Lily probably 4 different times. And I've tried to even do it from a Christopher Moore slapstick almost. Would you believe that the schizophrenic and the fucking about to snap guy? Well, about to snap. The weird thing is, when Milhouse died, I thought Lily had done it. I called her on it, and she gave me one of the few times that she bluffed me out of a fucking truth. I wanted to believe her, I guess, too. But she stared me down. I mean, when I knew when Lily was lying 98% of the time. But the 2% of the time that she could squeak by were significant. And this was the one that was the most significant. But, I mean, eventually she spat it out in my face. And that's when I knew it was true. The look on her face at that point is the most evil look I've ever seen on a human being's face in my life. She wanted the words to cause me a heart attack to die. And I wanted to kill her simultaneously. And if I was in other points of life, I don't know that I wouldn't have. But as much as the rage in me that day was toward the universe, not Lily, well, I don't know, maybe that was the release that was coming. I was actually I wasn't angry at Lily. I was angry that the universe had done this. I thought was this the whole point? Is this why you let her walk in my back door? To force this test on me? Or on her? I mean, it was the first time that I felt like I wasn't going to allow the sequence to fulfill the program that was written. You will not see me let Lily be the problem, because Lily's not the problem. Lily arrived here for a purpose, and whatever broke her is the problem. So, with that in mind, now, 7 years and 20 minutes later, I miss you, Lily, and I hope you are at peace, but I'm really glad that we didn't kill each other. And let's face it, we always said that it was going to be possible. We were fairly open about our ability to take each other to extremes. Well, let's not besmirk the dead. Besmirch them or besmirk them? I don't know. But if Lily were here and we were having a fair conversation, she would admit that the oppositional defiant disorder diagnosis she was given at one of the Pueblo stays of forced incarceration was something she could understand that one a lot better than she can understand schizophrenia. So we never talked about Lily being schizophrenic. It never was a conversation we ever had. We did talk about Lily having delusions. We did that a lot. We did talk about Lily having problems trying to figure out who to be angry at, because her anger was constant and needed to be channeled somehow for her to feel a level of peace ever in a chunk of time during the day. Now, there were things in the world that could bring her peace. Her grandma was one of them. But she so walked over her grandma at the end that her grandma gave up on her. And I'm sure that's why Lily finally did it. Once her grandma was no longer in her corner, well, Lily literally had no one left in the world. I wasn't enough of a presence for her to figure it out. But her gift to the world was that there was something in Lily that needed to prove that you had to think bigger because bigger things were happening. And she made me believe it. I will get into some of Lily's mystical moments with me. The first time she read my mind, I thought, holy shit, did she just read my fucking mind? How did she do that? How did she come up with that sequence of words that I was about to say? A sequence so specific. I have it written down somewhere in a diary. I will find this because it was a moment of sheer terror. Because she read my mind. No way did Lily come up with this phrase. And then, I asked her where she had heard that. Why did you just say that? No, why did you say that? Why did you say those 3 words? Tell me why you said those 3 words. Tell me. I was in her face. I thought she'd read my mind. It was clear as day to me that she had done it. And then I thought, I'm fucking crazy, right? I'm fucking crazy. I'm fucking crazy. And then not 10, not 9 something days later, she did it again with a very similar phrase, but a different one. And that's when I was like, how are you reading my fucking mind, Lily? How are you reading my fucking mind, Lily? So, after about 30 of those, I gave up on asking her. I don't know how she did it, but she could read my fucking mind. And it was always reading my next thought. She couldn't read in, well, I don't know. She could read my next thought in conversation. I'm sure of it. And it's such a strange thing to concede that this lunatic is reading my mind. It still is. It's spooky enough that I can dismiss it entirely for 3 or 4 weeks and think, that is all. If ever I were crazy, that would have been partly where it was going down. That's just. And then 4 weeks later, after finally convincing myself that I couldn't live with that excuse because I knew I was lying to myself, there's too much reality evidence. She was reading my next thought. Or someone was, I don't even want to get further than that. It was frequent enough for a period of time there that I started recording our conversations trying to catch her doing it. But I never did. And she would always, whenever I was trying to get her delusional gait down and catch her in a moment of true lucidity, she would always fucking outmaneuver me. But once in a while, I'd see her in a moment of true lucidity. And I don't know, like the Millhouse moment. That's the most evil Lily ever looked. And she looked evil to me more than once. But right then, I saw someone willing to kill me. And who I knew had killed my dog. And I think she tried to kill my cat. But I could be wrong about that. But who else would hurt my cat? Anyway, so when you get to the point of reflection that there's nothing left to think about there's nothing left but to think about it because Lily's gone. So no more interactions will ever stack up what happened between us. So I will never really know some of the things that I only came to think I knew, because when I finally would get her attention enough to voice it into her reality, she wouldn't deny it. Lily was always somewhat committed to being called on something and then owning up to it. If you caught her, if she could sneak around you, she would. But if you actually caught her doing shit, she'd own up to what she was doing. So, I don't know. Strange things to think about. But without Lily's presence in my life, well, I don't know how I figure out all that stuff that still has me playing Obi-Wan Kenobi in 3D chess when I feel like it. All right. What I've done is, I think I have some mea culpas from recent episodes. I left so many threads dangling, including what the dumbest mistake I've made in my life, possibly, that I did in my job search. I never even told you. But maybe I shouldn't tell you, because at this point it's been enough recording time that you've probably forgotten that I've forgotten that. Or you're not even listening, so you don't even care. But I put the wrong phone number on my resume. And frankly, used it on in-person applications at the local restaurants as well. Wrong phone number. And I did it because on the moment when I said, okay, I need to memorize my new phone number, let me figure out the sequence in a way that I won't forget it pattern-wise, I had seen it, and I still can see it on the phone with it was it was 3 numbers at the front that had 28 surrounded by 7s for the next 4, which to me was easy to remember because 28's my birthday and 7's the month afterwards. So it was the month after was 7, and the month before was a mistake because it was also 7. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'll never forget the last 4 numbers have a 28 in them, a July and a July. You know what I'm saying? I'm giving myself these verbal cues because my whole life this is just how I've remembered a number that I needed to know. I've given myself enough of a scenario, and if you can attach it to a picture, you're golden. If you can picture the month of July showing up to your 7th birthday with a cake that exploded into red, white, and blue confetti, you'll never forget it. You will never forget it because you'll have imprinted an image with that number sequence that now makes enough sense in your brain for it to always connect. So, that said, 7287 is how I wrote my number on my resume, on every application, on online everything I did, except the 3 or 4 places that I went to the very day I switched my phone number when I looked at my phone and wrote it down from that perspective, which means I was wrong the whole time because clearly it's not like my number switched Mandela effect. No, I looked at it, saw 7287 where it was in fact 8278. Yeah. Fuck that up. Seriously. How the fuck do you get that wrong? Well, I did. So, what do we think? Is that the dumbest mistake you've ever heard of? Pause. Unpause. And yeah, we all know talking about Fight Club is a bigger mistake. But, as mistakes go, I mean, I gotta hope this is the dumbest one of my life. Because whatever's left of my life, think about it. It took me 54 years to make this fucking moron mistake. Hit the number 1 slot with a fucking asinine bullet from a goddamn AK-47. Holy shit! When I figured it out, it was a moment of... I was so stunned that my brain immediately said, well, someone's fucking you, bro. Because it was definitely 7287. It was definitely 7287. Somebody switch your number from 7287 to 8278 to fuck with you. And then 3 or 4 seconds after that, I'm like, I think we can safely rule out that level of inspection into my life is being done by people with the power to do it. So other than an alien intervention who was just comically changing my phone number to make me pissed off, the only thing I had left to blame was me. And the hubris of my life lived in what I considered to be the sort of numerical savvy system of 3.14159265358979. I have always thought I got numbers. Even if I didn't get the universe, I got numbers. So I've had this opinion of myself that when I stick something in my head as a number, it's there forever. Its value has been assigned, and I am now ready to go write that number wrong on all my resumes, on all my applications. Oh my God! Sit here and go, why is nobody calling me back? Oh, why? I can't think enough to go look to see if I'm in fact giving them the wrong phone number. Nope. It took how many days? So I figured this out on Monday. Monday would have been, considering today is the 10th, then Monday would have been the 5th. And I had had that phone since the 17th of February. And let's add that extra day into February. So that means that I had it for 18 days before I understood. Well, let's not count the first day. 17 days. Let's not even count the last day. There was a 16-day window in which I had been looking for a job, and in giving people information to get in touch with me, was giving them not my phone number. Huh. Well, I mean, I say I want to work, but apparently my actions say otherwise, right? Pause. Pause. All right. Let's get to some of the dangling loops that even I'm not sure I can close all of them, but I can close why don't the first 125 count? It's not that the first 125 don't count, and that's where I just said something and then never got back to clarify what I meant. When I loaded 125 videos to YouTube on the channel that I created that week called It's All My Fault, that I synced up to my Android phone email, which is why if you got to get in touch with me, you can email me at heidegersgoldfish@gmail.com. I don't even know. Maybe you can get a hold of me through YouTube now. I don't fucking know. But you can Gmail me at heidegersgoldfish@gmail.com. That's where I look for contact and where I respond. Otherwise, good luck. But the YouTube channel that I hooked up, I was pissed that it got hooked into my Android phone. And it did it automatically. It just sorted itself into my IP address or whatever and assigned that value to my account. So at that point, I'm like, well, this will just be the podcast account. But the reality was I was so interwoven with this address. I was like, okay, well, I don't want all this connection to Google. So I started shutting all of my YouTube settings down, all this stuff. And then I just said, if this is the way it's going to be, I'm going to stop uploading. I was so tired of Google's inspective ways anyhow, that it didn't take much for me to not want to get involved with YouTube. So that's why the channel, I put 125 videos up probably in 3 or 4 days, or maybe 3 or 4 weeks. I don't really remember at this point because I had to make the videos. I don't know if I made them and then uploaded them all at once, or I was making them and upload and making them and upload. I don't remember. But whatever it was, the amount of work that went into those first 125 could not justify doing the next. I think at that point I had, I don't know, another 125 to do or more. Like, I don't think I was even halfway through them. So I just left it alone. And then I never logged into that account again. I mean, I log into my Android phone all the time, so it's not like the account went dead. But I never used YouTube. The app, none of it. And so I just left that dormant and sitting there. And as far as, I never went to look at any of it. I never found it online to see it. I just left it alone. It was like this project that I figured I'd get back to at some point when the whole thing was over and finish uploading to YouTube. But at that point, it would have been just as easy to give up on that channel and never see it again. So then when the podcast hosting system, RSS.com, put in video links to YouTube channel, and the cross-firing that would give you this account status that allowed all these other things for free. Of course I did it. What do I care? I got that dead YouTube channel. And then I'm thinking, fuck it. I've already uploaded the first 2.5 seasons, or 3, whatever it is. No, 2.5. And so then I think, well, should I redo the whole thing? Like, I was going to delete all of those. But then those have all the photos of the dogs and all that shit in there. There's collages of all the people not all the people I speak about at all. But there's enough material there that I thought it was a good counterbalance to the fact that everything coming after that is just going to be a tinted, handwritten note. Because I've explained why. So the reason the first 125 don't count is because they were an abandoned project. And while they have their own position in the hierarchy of things that got launched on YouTube, they are also the least coherent of any of it. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know. I don't know what people connect to anymore. I don't even care. Whatever you connect to, I hope it's a purpose and that you're gaining something and then passing that along to somebody who needs it. If the world were a lot like that, we'd all be in a better place. So, if there's one last issue on YouTube, it's the fact that the 6th episode of season 8 got stalled in the HD conversion mode, and now that connection has been fulfilled on the RSS side, but failed on the YouTube side, and there is no way to reenact the attempt from RSS to automatically make it happen. So I may just create one last video, which would be season 8, episode 6, in that same sort of collage format, and upload it as the YouTube failed upload that was. Or I might not. We'll see. Okay, I left the third level of lying off the list, because to me the third level of lying is the obvious one. The white lies we all tell. The little lies we tell every day to get away with whatever the fuck we don't want to tell the truth about. I no longer white lie about anything. As a matter of fact, I don't understand white lies anymore. I don't get why that exists. And I don't think that the younger generation does either. There's a lot more just blunt truth down there. But white lies are the third lies that everybody does to get through the day. So that covers the mistake in my job search, the lies, and the 125 count video splatter. Why would anybody want a photo of your cat? Yeah, why? My dad would. My dad thought my cat was really pretty, which is a weird thing for my dad to think because he's allergic to cats. But I'm just saying, again, the conception of this originally was the written word. Blog about mystical mania. But then I would get bogged down in trying to be too perfect or trying to be whatever voice I wasn't. And so all those starts were just starts and stops. And then Lily started recording the universe with her phone. And frankly, we had some dialogues early on that were just snappy and insane. But they were the kinds of entertaining moments in my life that I made copies of. I have a whole file of them. There's about, 15 hours worth of material in there. And it's a lot of her firing back and forth across me. But at this point, Lily was kind of happy. There was something about her that changed. In her early years, Lily would get into projects. Like she'd be the local news media manager for the day. Like some kid playing house. But she'd start interviewing things like Millhouse. And then she'd be interviewing the kitchen sink. And then she'd go outside and interview the tree. And then she'd come inside and interview me. And it was, there was just something, there was something weirdly innocent about Lily. And this was only exposed on the rarest of occasions when she was into just doing something whimsical. And it got to the point where if you could keep this going with her, she'd take it into really, self-satisfying area. Like she enjoyed these things. And if you would work with her and go into the sort of delusion of choice, well, it made her day. And so once I understood that this playtime meant something to her, we'd have on and off, noble king's banquets or the gathering of the sequence of 7 or whatever naming secret society she could come up with on the spur. We'd all be in robes. I mean, she would just have fun playing non-reality. So, why does that have anything to do with pictures of my cat? Well, it doesn't. I don't know why I got into talking about that. If I was going to, if I was going to do this initially, what I thought was going to happen, I really thought the universe wanted me and Lily to discuss things in a way that helped expose the heartbreak of the condition she was suffering. But that wasn't what the universe wanted at all. So when I figured that out, well, that didn't mean that Lily was... I had integrated Lily enough that she was no longer living in the house, but she was trying to find work. And I was trying to convince her to come and do this once or twice a week and then go look for a job in the afternoon, or come look for a job and then come have dinner, and we'd have a conversation once or twice a week. I'd make her dinner, whatever. I was just trying to get her to use a routine that would also involve possibly having these recorded conversations. And we got one or two down, but Lily was hard to pin down, to say the least. So I've included a few photos of all the people involved. I would never think anybody would want more than that to see. But because I thought we were going to do this on video in the first place, I do have early videos too. And it wasn't going to work out on video. So that's why I figure I'm done talking about why this is something that's done in voice and voice only. The vocal communication being made here is the one that gives you the most blunt view of what is going on and what I'm about. So if you don't want that, seriously, there's a whole bunch of video on YouTube that's got all kinds of cats and schizophrenics. Actually, I've only seen one other schizophrenic on YouTube that I for sure was like, she's a schizophrenic doing the same shit Lily does. Exactly. To the point it was like, she's doing exactly what Lily does, using the same sort of intonations, the same walking mannerisms, the same smoking mannerisms. I mean, to the point I started wondering if there was a relationship here, looking to see if they were some, and then it sort of, I don't want to get into that one, but I've seen one other schizophrenic in action, and it was on a YouTube video. Okay, I was also talking about, I figured out what I'm going to do. I'm going to do my final, or my Sweet 16 this year are going to be 8 characteristics about men that are surprisingly likable, and 8 characteristics about women that are surprisingly likable. And they're going to battle it out. And if I can come up with 16, I'll come up with 16. But so far I have like 11, and 2 or 3 of them are lame. So I'm trying to come up with the best 8 I can come up with since I have time. If I get to 16 quality ones, or even 15, 14, 13 quality ones and some duds who can be our low fodder, well, we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to make it all the way to 32 on this, but 8 versus 8 is enough. And I'm going to go out on a limb and use my own opinion, as well as some surveying of the situation from some of my more trusted resources, as to what things might qualify in either category for either gender. And I think it's time to reinvent the things we see about each other that make each other's presence in our lives work. Because it's not always something that you necessarily want to be around. You're just glad it's being taken care of. You're glad it's around here. You don't necessarily need to even be participating. You just want to be encouraging that maintain, so you can clearly stay the fuck out of it. There might be some of those. All right. So the insecurity was my original thought, because I'm a negative Nancy, was to do 16 things that are surprisingly annoying about men and 16 things that are surprisingly annoying about women. You can see why I changed my train of thought here, right? All right, so the next one is, what the fuck, you man thing? What the fuck, you man thing? Man thing. Oh, okay, that was to reinforce that I shouldn't be talking about women's insecurities as if I know anything about it, or their menstrual cramps. Why I brought that up? Again, I don't know. Let's stop doing that. Like the audio lines was get. Oh, so when I tell you that I'm not going to get a styrofoam padded room so that my acoustic tenor or timbre or what resonance, what does my voice do to make it more pleasurable for you to listen to on the other end, other than communicate clearly? What is this snobbery with audio? I'm curious. And I understand that these sounds and shit are fucking annoying, and they don't need to, there's no presence for them. And a sound studio ensures those kinds of distractions don't exist. But when you're talking to your friend on a phone, and I don't know if anybody even talks on the phone anymore, except legal people and military. But if other people are speaking on the phone, well, there used to be all kinds of shit going on in the background that you deal with. So I will do what I can to move myself into the 21st century where that kind of stuff doesn't happen. But it took a sequence of indistinguishable vocabulary from my point of view, because of my own bumbled activity in the recording zone, for me to come correct with the idea that I had something here that was broken and needed to be fixed. This has all occurred in probably the last, if we're being fair, 4 to 5 months, and more intensely in the last 2 or 3. But along with many things in my life, I'll identify a problem, sometimes forget I even identified it, but even if I do, not really have a solution for it, and then not only do the limiting things that might get a little bit of a start going, but try to figure out something grandiose enough that it becomes a problem that I figure that's too much work now. I'll just let it go and deal with something else. So I'll fail at even getting something going that's better, like positioning my microphone better. There's one step that I've done now, 3 recordings in a row, that if I can just remember that for another 4 or 5, will become an automatic thing to do. So these are the things that, after starting to finally wake up thinking, oh yeah, I want to go exercise right now. Like, I have so much energy that waking up and burning off energy helps. And today I have this thing where on my lighter days, the last third of it, I have to go as hard as I can. Even if I fail, I have to go as hard as I can, because I did fail one day. And today, oh my God, I started that thing like halfway through. I had so much fucking energy. I'd burned something off in my state of about to go accelerate as fast as I can anyway. I just started early. And I've already lifted weights. I mean, I got so much done today just from having the energy to go through. All I can say is better habits may take you months to finally get integrated into your life. It's nice to think that you're going to start an exercise program that's a 12-week commitment, and at the end of 12 weeks look like this transformation that this guy did from day 1 to day 72, or I guess 84. But if you think of, okay, well, if that's what can be done in absolute perfect execution, what can be done in C-? I want to pass, but I'm just as cool walking in the back of the fucking graduation line as walking first. So don't put a time schedule on this. Let's just say, as long as this gets accomplished, it's a win. And however many false starts go into it are just those pauses in life moment to make sure that you have the right energy going forward to maintain. But maintain you will. Just give yourself a break to get there. If you can think that failing is only deciding that you'll never be worth doing it, well then just believe you're worth doing it. You'll get back to it. You'll make it happen. And I'm not saying that I will persist with an exercise program for the rest of my life, but the acceleration of both energy and overall strength, endurance, flexibility even a little bit. But I've been working on that for the first time ever in my life. I'm doing like yoga stretching. And it seems to have an effect. But I don't think I'll ever touch my toes. So, trade-offs in life. But I will always know that the challenge of getting your physical form a little bit of a push 3 or 4 times a week puts you in a whole better spot for the rest of all of your life. So, I've been here once or twice, but I was too young to appreciate that this state of mind is something you can maintain without a whole lot of effort once you've reached the plateau that you're there. And whatever gap you have to get there, well, that's just the amount of self-loathing you put yourself through. If it's a lot, well, give yourself a lot of love and some time to come to love the real you, which is ready to emerge whenever you want to get around to it. All right. 3 things to be heard clearly. Oh, right. The 3 things that I need to use to be heard clearly are putting the microphone in a better position, stopping the ambient noise that's all around me, and talking clearly. I sometimes will just mumble, or I'll get cotton mouth, or I'll have something in my mouth, or I'll be eating. Or I've never been sucking a dick during one of these. And I've never ever thought that that would be something I would do. Because after vomiting on the one guy, well, you'll have to go find that story. I'm not going to tell it again. But if there's something that I can do to make my voice not audible, I've probably done it. So whatever you want to tell me, oh yeah, and then you did this, I'll be like, yep, I did. But what I haven't done is thought while I'm recording to consciously decide to try to speak clearly as if I am getting my point across to a police officer. That's about the best paradigm I have for speaking clearly, because otherwise, who's got enough time to listen to me? Not you. I mean, you've been doing this for almost an hour? You've been double timing me, right? You know, I think I might be almost ready to have my first community service. What are those, like community outreach ads, whatever the rainbow ads are about drugs? I think it might be time for me to have a 60-second intro that says, I have listened to myself enough on double time, 2.25 times, 1.75, 2.23, whatever. Put it on something that is above 1.7. And then listen to myself at regular speeds, trapped in some web browser, and it's terrible. You should not be listening to me at regular speed. As a matter of fact, I would even consider putting these out at double speed if it wouldn't be so disappointing to ever meet me in real life and say, oh man, you talk slow. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. And since you now have an advantage to speed that up, to not take advantage of that advantage that you have to speed me up, well, that would be to slow your life down, in my opinion. So speed me up. Pause. All right. I'm paused. We're almost halfway through the list. And the rest of the list, I think, is kind of nonsensy, so it should be pretty quick. I was almost homeless, I said at one point during the recording 2 or 3 or 1 ago. And what I mean by I'm almost homeless is if at any point I were to walk out of here to go somewhere else and start making my nest egg and everything else, migrate from here to there, well, I would do it homeless. Like, I am clustered. Do I want to talk about my parents in this? I am clustered here, I thought, to assist whichever one of my parents is left when the other one passes first. They're 81, about to be 82, and 84 just turned. That's old. That's older than my sister and I expected them both to be here. And I'm not being morbid here. This is fantastic news that I have 2 healthy parents in their early and mid 80s who could easily both live to be 100. That's the truth. But because that's the truth, this sort of waiting game I've been playing for a few years to be positionally supportive of what I felt was likely, given actuarial tables, well, now I don't know what to think. And so I haven't really had this discussion with my sister more than once. But we have discussed one time that this is kind of an odd, it puts me in a position of, well, I would immediately come back, but I feel like I got to go. Like, they could be here another 15 years, both of them. I'm not going to stick around that long. That's impossible. I can't. So I should go now. And then hopefully take care of everything from that moment forward and then come back and celebrate with them. At least that's what it looks like. But I don't know. I would like some help here, Lioness. If you want to show up anytime soon and have this conversation with me, this is one I'd like to have. But asking for it doesn't always guarantee it comes. And we are not going to talk about android sentient beings and their come anymore, right? No, we're not. Pause. Unpause. Okay. I've been especially clumsy with my phrasing lately, and I hope some of this felt like it was more coherent tonight. So the audio of some interpreted negative capacity, I think, is how I basically summed up the phrase shitty sound. That is, I don't know where that comes from. That is word, pretzel, illogical, forced into some stream of viability sequence that even Sarah Palin would be ashamed of. So, having mocked Sarah Palin in the past, at least 9 million times. I have to come correct this once. I was maybe at least providing ideas that were coherent, but with the most choppy word sequencing that you ever threw up onto magnetic fringe poetry. So I'm sorry, Sarah Palin. We're all capable of taking the language and butchering it like you do. So to make fun of you for doing it, I will no longer do. At least until you make your next mistake that's just obscene. I might do it first, though. You never know when I might get my audio of some interpreted negative capacity going and do a Sarah Palin word salad of my own. Okay, women. Okay, this one I definitely have to apologize for. I don't mean to imply that women lose their looks as they grow older, as they age. In fact, I really don't believe this. I find a lot of women over 50 very, 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 very beautiful, attractive, hot, all of it. So I have a hard time. I even think my mother grew old extremely gracefully. I think her sister did. I don't see this. The people who you know in life, to me, are always beautiful. And I'm not trying to just be generous, like, oh yeah, well, you know, the fact that they've got there's an ideal age that this was a Final Fantasy. This was a Fantasy Feud final category question. What is the age at which a woman's body is most attractive? Nobody said 21. The answer was 22. Or the number one answer, but 21, it was like 22 had 26 points and 21 had 24. Like people were answering 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And then the first woman said 13, I think, or something. I mean, something weird. But that question has an inherent bias that it's the vigor of youthful bodies ready to procreate babies that is some sort of status of most appeal to women. But to see a woman who has not only had her children, raised them, faced the challenges that come with that, and survived it, and become a better person for it, to me is way more attractive. Way more attractive. And in some ways, physically more themselves. There's a ruggedness to the beauty that's earned, that frankly is fucking hot. So I don't believe that women should have that insecurity in the least. I think anybody who lives their life in a fulfilling capacity comes out of it more beautiful than they started. It'll emerge from within. It just does happen. And the insanity of cutting oneself to stave off the sands of time in some sort of hope that the next 3 years look as good as the last two plus the one that's coming. If I could just stall it out that long, that'd be enough for me to justify this $186,000 worth of surgery. I don't know. The idea that it's there means it's a forced option of consideration, and thus seems like, well, there are some truly remarkable results. And shortcuts are what we're taught to hack our way through life, aren't we? But if you just commit to yourself and stay as radiant inside as you know how to be, you will always be beautiful. And I'm not trying to say all women are beautiful just because they radiate from the inside. No. I know hot fucking 50-year-olds and 60-year-olds all over the place. I mean, not single necessarily, but they're all over the place. All right. So women don't lose their looks, and men don't get better looking as they age. Men are gross the whole time. Doesn't matter when. Okay, 03 bank account. What if I told you? Oh yeah. So I say, so some people find it obscene or something to live with a $30 bank account, which I don't. And then I said, and besides, what if I told you that I spent $12 and I only have 19? Well, then your claim of having any kind of intuition with numbers would sound absurd because you just took 12 out of 30 and came up with 19. Yeah, I did that. Because, of course, I had used my card and it had moved from 30 to 12. No, that's not true at all. That's not true at all. No, I had actually spent $12 and I had actually had $30 in cash and came home with 19 because I was counting my change, which had $1.13 or something worth of change in it. So my total asset, which now has to include the pennies that come out of my pocket, well, that's now $19. Unless I go to the store right now, and that could change things. So I'll keep you updated. I know you're interested. That's why we're going over an hour, because this is interesting. Yeah, that's why we're going over an hour. Okay, let's get this done. No corporate America. Okay, I did work for Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Forgot about that. That's definitely corporate America, and some of it at its worst. So we'll go into that someday. That's also how I got my felony. I know how all of this is going to go down, but have no capacity to speak to it, is a direct quote from, if not the last one, the one before it. And then I wrote, why the fuck did you do that? I say I know how all this is going to go down, but I do know how certain patterns are going to fulfill, at least the ones that are going to circle up on my life. So whether or not that's something that I can manifest without the foreknowledge necessary to directly influence its outcome, I can't. The outcome is set. There's a certain sequence of events that are already set. They're going to go down. And even if you were in a collision course to somehow maybe have enough impact to sway the event one direction, something would alter your effort. Like, my point is, the energies can't not fulfill. So if you're here for purpose and you are on target, be ready for fulfillment. I don't know that it's this year or it's 29. And I'm not putting those 2 years as the only possibilities, but I know we're not going to see something in 1964 that hasn't gone through the event. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. So this is imminent and you're participating in it. I'm guessing that you might even have intuition about it, and you need to start listening to that intuition. Really. I'm just being blunt as much as I can. And since we're past an hour, you're the one person listening. So I'm talking only to you and whoever you're ready to be honest with. Okay, I speak about wanting to change the titling, but never explain why I didn't do it. I couldn't change the titling because it meant deleting every single episode of the podcast and re-uploading it with the new title. So I was like, fuck that. At that point, I had at least 180 or 200 of them. Fuck that. So that's why. Should I rewrite my descriptions? Maybe. This I would consider. I would consider writing description part 2. After I've listened to the episode, I would write a description that describes what's actually in the episode. I'm having so much trouble going back and finding stuff that I want to find, moments that I know I spoke to already, so I can review them. I can't find them. One of them is lost for, I don't know how I can't figure out where it is, but when I found something today that was so out of sequence from where I thought it was supposed to be, I was like, that's it. I should at least rewrite the descriptions. So I may do that. And I would only rewrite them by adding something to what was originally there. I wouldn't edit anything that's already there, except for I have found a whole bunch of errors in my descriptions. I'm trying to clean those up as I go. But I'm not rewriting stuff. I'm just moving. Like, I had the word water with 2 T's in it. Just like, what? So if you ever see descriptions part 2, it will be an attempt to try to describe what's actually happening in the episode. Or the recording, as I like to call it. Do you think we've hit the end of the laptop generation? Okay. Are we at a point yet where the people who are driving never used a laptop? It's possible, right? Except maybe as a toddler plunking around on their dad's office machine. I'm saying the laptop is becoming such a dinosaur so quickly, and it still has its purpose. It will still get utilized. There are still going to be needs for laptops. But it is a device of niche orient compared to what will be the dominant exposure and perhaps exclusive exposure to the World Wide Web through your telephone. And if you go through your entire life with your phone as your portal and never having even branched out enough to have used a laptop, how far away from that future are we? 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20? When that future's here, it amazes me that we have gotten to the point where technology is such a portal of value and reinforced connections of value in our lives. It is mind-boggling to me that everybody born here forward will forever have some sort of curved neck syndrome. Every single person on the planet. Talk about something you didn't see coming. Okay. And then, so when I'm talking about what happened with the valedictorian race in the calculus class scenario, I told my parents that because she had gotten the better grade in calculus, that 6-week mark, that was the only discrepancy, and that's how she got to be valedictorian. My parents, I think, already knew that that was untrue when I told them that, but they definitely know it's untrue now. And the okay, so that's, oh, yeah. I called Freedom 90 Fame 90, and I knew I was making a mistake while I said it in real time. I knew Fame 90 wasn't the song. I knew the word started with F. I couldn't find it. I took about half a millisecond to think, wait, the fuck, what? And I even knew it was a George Michael. I mean, this is what I think getting old is like. You happen to say something that in real time you know is wrong, but as you go into the cobwebs of your brain looking for the answer that's correct, that you know you have, you just have lost the file. So, having lost everyone's attention in the universe at this point, well, let's all lose some files, huh?